Hi, welcome to Cherie's Weight Loss Journey. Happy solstice. It is the summer equinox. Yeah, I just wanted to say that, as an empath, we feel lots of things, right? And the one thing that I wanted to talk about was like when you feel people dying, right? There are times when you feel that somebody has died, you know, and sometimes a little bit before they died or a little bit after they died, you could sense whether it was a contest or a battle that they lost. But what bothers what bothers empaths that can pick up on the energy when somebody dies is when somebody dies and they were innocent. And when they're innocent, it's like heaven cries. It's like heaven cries. And because I know a lot of people will be like, "Oh yeah, people are dying every day." Yeah, but people get into contests, right? Like the criminal who dies, trying to get away from the police. To him, you know, most of the time it's a him. To him, you know, it was a contest, right? He wore out he weighed the consequences out, and he chose to defy the odds, right? And what made me think about that was when a young man, got online and he said that, he's doing bad, right? And that he can't afford his 2-year-old daughter. So instantly it was like downloaded to me that this man had, you know, relied on the system to provide for his family. And, you know, what really had bothered me about what this man had said was that he can't take care of his daughter. And I'm like, your daughter's 2 years old. Who's been taking care of your daughter all of this time? Right? And then, it was like, well, he's a young man. He's 24 years old, you know. So instantly, I thought about, oh, that's the welfare cuts and the housing cuts, right? Because a lot of people, was, I guess you could say, hacking or scamming, the welfare systems, feeling like, well, they'll always have a place because all they have to do is just get a woman pregnant, and then, she'll provide, the foundation, and then he'll be able to live, kind of like a ghost, but he'll still have a place to stay and he'll still have a family. It just won't be publicized, right? But now women are having to take, another perspective about, allowing themselves, to get into these frivolous relationships and thinking that, even if they do make a mistake, there will be a safety net. But if the safety net also means that, you're going to be forced, to volunteer or find some work, then that safety net doesn't look so appealing anymore. And then, they're going to, have huge discussions with their partner and letting them know that, their situation isn't going to work. And there's going to be some heartbreak. There's going to be a lot of heartbreak when the guys will tell them, that they just can't afford the children or child that they had with them. That's heartbreaking that, another huge wave of abandonment is occurring or will occur. As these men will say, I cannot support you. I cannot support the family. I'll do what I can. And, and they abandon them. They might send some money now and then, but as far as taking care of them and supporting them, no. And then, this is also going to be a hit, another hit on these women, because they're realizing that, they're going to try to take care of these children by themselves without adequate education, without access to jobs, and they'll also be faced with, trying to make decisions from there. So, interesting enough, I would like to caution you from making the decision to involve yourself in illegal activity, because the illegal activity you might think as an option to save you, well, that illegal activity can ruin your life indefinitely, or you could lose your life trying to get away from the police. Okay? So then what will happen to your children? If you get caught selling drugs, they could seize your vehicle. If you're selling drugs outside of your house, or, get caught, prostituting out of your house, they can seize the house, because prostitution and drugs, they fall under RICO. Okay? And you don't get those back. And what's going to happen to the children? They're going to go to they're just going to go to the system. Maybe they'll be in foster homes, maybe not. Maybe they'll get adopted. Yeah, maybe not. So before you put everything on the line and think that, oh, that's your only alternative because you haven't found the right way to do things. So my thinking is, if you're having a hard time planning out and manifesting the right way, what really makes you feel like you're going to be successful planning something out in the underworld, in the illegal activities? where there's no rules, right? In the real world, yeah, you might have bad credit, but in the underworld, they don't give credit. You might get fronted some product or some money, but no, you don't get credit. And if you don't pay back, you don't get to write it off. They'll write you off. Okay. All right. So, getting back to what I was saying, if you can't win in a system that has rules and standards, what makes you think that you can win in a system that doesn't have rules and the standards are whoever has the power? Okay? So, I heard this same kind of thinking in 2020 when people were, what are the decisions what options do they have? And a lot of them, they went dark, right? And so a lot of them, slowly, that fast money, that character wasn't worth it, right? Because they're right back at square one, right? Trying to figure out, well, what can they do now? And interesting enough, how people were even willing to be assing right, for money. And I'm like, are you serious? Is that what y'all doing? Okay. I don't even know what to say about these asses out here. Okay? So, yeah, I just wanted to make this video. I've been chilling. Enjoying this summer solstice day. Just thinking that it's weird that people would think that life could exist with imbalances to the extreme. It just blows my mind. It just blows my mind. Yeah. I've even thought about some of the downloads that I had got where people were just marrying to level up, and they figured, they'll find a way to terminate their spouse so that they could gain all of the wealth. And I was thinking to myself, like, wow. And I had termed it as a form of cannibalism, right? And there's so much disease when it comes to cannibalism, just so much. And and then there's always, karma. There's karma always. So, yeah. you know, the idea that, well, even if they fail, they'll always have, a tender love somewhere tucked away, in the projects and stuff, and they're eliminating that safety net. hmm Like, nah. I mean, it was one thing to have a few people doing that, but when you guys try to make it into a whole system, nah, nah. So, and the saddest advice that I have is, if you are in that desperate situation and then you have nobody to take care of your kids and you feel compelled to go to the dark side, please, just give your kids, to the authorities and tell them that you have no means to take care of your children, and then see what you can do on your own. Maybe you can get your kids back later once you get back on your feet. But don't take your kids down that route. Don't. Because your kids will find out that, not only was your parents, uneducated or didn't have the ability to provide for them, but they were also a menace to society by being a criminal. And that's like shame. Okay? Don't do that.